Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're opening up this really remarkable little book. Offers a huge shortcut, kind of, to profound personal change. We are talking about the Four Agreements, Toltec Wisdom for Freedom by Don Miguel Ruiz. If you've ever felt, tangled up in all that internal mental chaos or maybe trapped by expectations, this could be your guide to, well, untangling it all.
Yeah, and it's definitely more than just another self-help book. It's a really powerful synthesis. Came out in 97. It draws on this ancient Toltec lineage. They were like a master society of knowledge in central Mexico, but it frames their spiritual laws in a way that, modern psychology can really connect with.
And that central concept, that's what makes it hit home for so many people, I think. Ruiz argues that basically from birth, we're sort of domesticated. We adopt this massive list of limiting beliefs, he calls them agreements, about ourselves, about the world. These agreements, they form what the Toltecs called the me-tote.
Right, the me-tote. That's really crucial context here. Think of it like mental fog. Or maybe like an internal marketplace, just full of noise, 1,000 contradictory thoughts, rules, judgments, all competing for your attention. It's that voice inside that tells you, oh, you're not smart enough, or, you have to be perfect to be loved, things like that.
That's a powerful way to put it. So the mission of the book, then, is really to expose where that suffering comes from, to break those old limiting agreements like the one you just mentioned, I must be perfect, and then consciously replace them. Replace them with four new, clear, really powerful rules for living. And that's the path, he says, to real personal freedom and love.
Exactly. It's like we're doing a deep clean, basically, of our internal operating system. And the most powerful place to start that cleaning, it's with our language, our words. Which brings us right to agreement number one.
Okay, yeah, let's dive into that. Starting with this huge power we often just overlook, our words.
Okay, agreement one. Be impeccable with your word. The core idea is integrity. Say only what you mean what you say. Simple enough on the surface. But the Toltec idea of impeccability, it goes deeper than just, being truthful to other people.
Right. When the source talks about the power of words, is it only about how we talk outwardly? Or does it really dig into our internal dialogue, too? Because, wow, that internal script can be absolutely devastating sometimes.
Oh, it focuses heavily on the internal, yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at the root, impeccable actually means without sin. And sin, in this Toltec context, isn't religious dogma. It's defined as turning against yourself. Words are like magic, according to Ruiz. They're creative forces. So when you use your words to gossip or to lie, and this is often the most damaging, to criticize yourself, you're essentially using that creative power destructively. You're feeding that me-tote, that internal noise.
Okay, that's where it gets really interesting for you, the listener. The implication is huge. Self-criticism isn't harmless. It's not benign. If I'm constantly telling myself internally, oh, I'm such an idiot because I missed that deadline, I am literally cementing an agreement that limits who I think I am.
Precisely. That is a destructive agreement you've just made with yourself. So the impeccability principle suggests replacing that thought with something more like, okay, I made a mistake, I accept the consequence, and now I'll create a new strategy. The goal is to consciously use your words to build yourself and others up, to inspire, not to tear down or create needless guilt. It's really a practice of self-love expressed through your self-talk.
Okay. So if our words are the tool that shapes our internal world, then the second agreement feels like it's about protecting that world from, well, everything coming from the outside. And this one can be incredibly tough in practice. Don't take anything personally.
Yeah, this one's the firewall. It's the thing that can grant you, immediate immunity from the opinions of others. The fundamental understanding here is that what other people say or do, even if it feels like it's aimed right at you, it's actually a reflection. It's a reflection of their internal beliefs, their emotional state, their own set of old, maybe unconscious agreements, not about you.
But it's just so easy to internalize criticism, isn't it? Especially if it touches on an old wound, an agreement we already have about, say, our worth or our abilities. The immediate reaction is often to defend ourselves.
And that's the ego jumping in, demanding validation. Ruiz teaches that we shouldn't be looking for external validation. And just as importantly, we shouldn't accept external negativity or defamation either. Think about it. If someone is angry and they lash out at you, that anger is like a poison they're carrying. If you take it personally, you're essentially drinking their poison, maybe hoping it'll somehow hurt them, but it only hurts you.
Yeah, the source is really clear on this. If someone insults you, it's almost always about their pain or their fear or just their particular interpretation of reality. It's not an objective truth about your worth. Which raises a really critical question for anyone listening. How much suffering, how much needless suffering could we actually avoid if we just refuse to absorb the emotional baggage of others?
Oh, an immense amount, a truly huge amount. Taking things personally is fundamentally rooted in this sort of egocentric belief that everything revolves around me. This agreement forces us to recognize that everyone is living in their own separate reality, their own dream of the planet, as Ruiz calls it.
Yeah.
If you can truly maintain that distance, you become immune, not just to criticism, but even to flattery, which can also be a trap.
Okay. But keeping that immunity up,
Mhm.
that takes active effort, right? Which leads us straight into the third agreement. Because if we don't actually know the full story behind someone's actions, we tend to fill in the blanks ourselves. And that makes it almost impossible not to take it personally, which is why we need agreement 3. Don't make assumptions.
Exactly. We are hardwired for narrative. Our brains just hate uncertainty, hate information gaps. So when there's a gap, we automatically fill it in. And unfortunately, we usually fill it with the worst case scenario. We assume something, then we convince ourselves our assumption is the absolute truth, and then we react emotionally to the assumption, not to what actually happened or didn't happen.
Oh, I think absolutely everyone listening has been there. Let's use a classic example just to ground this.
Mhm.
Say, I send an important email to a colleague, and hours go by. No response. 4 hours. Silence.
Right. And the assumption spiral kicks in almost instantly. You start thinking, okay, they must hate me. They're definitely ignoring me on purpose. They've probably gone straight to the boss to complain about me. Oh, God, I'm probably going to lose my job over this. All this anxiety generated purely from a fiction you've created in your head. You start personalizing the silence, which means you're failing at agreement 2, because you jumped straight to agreement 3 failure-making assumption.
And the beauty of this agreement, number 3, is just how practical it is. It's a straightforward tool for preventing conflict. So much conflict, whether it's at work or at home, really just boils down to two people operating under completely different, unvoiced assumptions.
And the solution, according to Ruiz, is radically simple, though maybe not always easy: direct communication. Instead of spiraling down that they ignored me because they don't like me rabbit hole, you just ask, hey, just noticed you hadn't replied to that email yet. Is everything okay on your end? Or maybe you needed more info from me. Something like that. Asking questions brings clarity. Assumptions just create drama and misunderstanding. It's really about having the courage to ask rather than being too afraid, so you just assume instead.
Right. Okay, so if you've managed to be impeccable with your word, you stop taking things personally, and you're clearing up confusion by not making assumptions. You then arrive at the final kind of overarching agreement, the one that seems to tie it all together and bring internal peace. Always do your best.
Yes, this one is the ultimate synthesis, I think, partly because it explicitly allows for human imperfection, which is vital. The really critical nuance here is understanding that your best isn't some fixed, static thing. It's variable. It changes constantly, moment to moment, day to day.
Okay, but isn't there a bit of a natural tension there? How can I always do my best if some days my best is honestly only like 60%? Doesn't that just sound like an excuse for maybe slacking off?
But that's where we need to distinguish between sincere effort and the impossible pursuit of perfection. That's a key distinction. If you genuinely put forth the effort you are capable of in this specific moment without holding back because you're afraid or because you're attached to a certain outcome, then you have done your best. Laziness or slacking off is when you consciously hold back even though you are capable of more in that moment. This agreement basically says, look, if today you're exhausted or you're sick or maybe just really distracted and 60% effort is genuinely all you have to give right now, then that 60% is your best for today and you have nothing to regret or judge yourself for.
That distinction feels really important. It's about avoiding that cycle of regret and self-judgment. If the quality is measured by the consistency of your sincerity, the effort you put in, not necessarily the external result, then you're constantly free from that harsh self-judgment. You're giving what you have, even when what you have isn't 100%.
Exactly. And this allowance for the variable best is what makes the whole 4-agreement system sustainable in the long run. You don't burn yourself out chasing some unattainable ideal of 100% perfection every single day, which, let's face it, is an old, destructive agreement many of us carry around. You achieve personal freedom not by trying to be superhuman, but by consistently showing up and being sincerely human, whatever that looks like on a given day.
So if we zoom out and look at the core message again, it becomes really clear. These 4 agreements, together, they form a pretty comprehensive system for achieving personal freedom. It's all about freeing yourself from guilt, from fear, and from all those toxic limiting agreements you might have inherited or just absorbed along the way.
And if we connect them all back together, you really see how interdependent they are. For instance, you can't possibly stick to don't take anything personally, which is agreement 2, if you haven't got a handle on don't make assumptions, agreement 3, because if you automatically assume someone has malicious intent behind their actions, you are always going to personalize whatever perceived slight happens next.
Right, that
Ah,
interdependence,
shit.
that stacking effect. I think that's a big reason why people love this book so much. It's short, yeah, it's easy to read, but the lessons are so universal. They build on each other. They give you this actionable framework you can apply pretty much anywhere. Relationships, work, just finding some clarity and calm inside your own head.
It really allows you to shift your stance. Instead of just constantly reacting to external things, reacting to other people, you become the conscious director of your own internal emotional state. It's like a masterclass, really, in radical self-acceptance and also in boundary setting. It gives you a clear structure for managing both your internal dialogue through being impeccable and always doing your best, and your external interactions by not assuming and not personalizing.
And if we had to boil down the ultimate impact, the real takeaway from adopting this Toltec path, it probably comes back to that really powerful summary quote from the book. When you are immune to the opinions and actions of others, you won't be the victim of needless suffering.
That immunity. That's the prize, isn't it? It means that all that noise, that my tote we talked about earlier, it finally starts to quiet down. And you can actually begin to hear your own true voice, free from all the judgments from society or the agreements you picked up in childhood without even realizing it.
Okay, so this leaves us with a final, maybe provocative thought for you, the listener, to consider. Building on that idea of the variable best, think about those old agreements you know you've been holding on to. Maybe about your capabilities or your identity, or perhaps what you feel you owe the world. What is just one of those limiting agreements you could consciously choose to start breaking right now? And remember, agreement 4, even if today you only manage to hit, say, 60% sincerity in upholding one of the 4 agreements, just consider how the consistent application of that choice, that 60% effort, but repeated daily, how that could fundamentally shift your entire emotional state over time, over a week, a month, or maybe even a lifetime.